Number 28 in a series, Religion, Reason, and Revelation by Gordon H. Clark, published by the Craig Press, Nutley, New Jersey, as part of the University series. We are continuing in Chapter 2, Faith and Reason, on page 37. The main reason for this, says Barth, is that we are talking about the Christian God, the triune God. Admittedly, the Vatican Council did not intend to speak of another God, nor about only a part of this one God, but its method nevertheless leads to a partitioning of God, and therefore to another God. The decree uses the appellation, quote, our Lord, unquote, but the argument concerns only, quote, the beginning and end of all things, unquote. Now, says Barth, Christianity holds that God is the beginning and end of all things, but it also holds that God is the Redeemer. And if we take the unity of God seriously, we shall not be able to separate the one from the other so as to make one knowledge of God as beginning and end of things dependent on nature, and another knowledge of God as Lord and Redeemer dependent on revelation. No, says Barth, the knowledge of God cannot be so partitioned. A knowledge of God as the beginning and end cannot exist without a knowledge of God as Redeemer. Nor can we know God as Redeemer without knowing Him as the beginning and end of all things. Is not the Deus Dominus et Creator of this doctrine, Barth asks, the construct of human thinking, a thinking which, in the last resort, is not bound by the basis and essence of the Church, by Jesus Christ, by the prophets and apostles, but which relies upon itself? And although the knowability of this construct can rightly be affirmed without revelation, do we not have to ask what authority we have from the basis and essence of the Church to call it God? Perhaps it is impossible to follow Barth in every line of his objection here quoted. Very likely Pascal put the matter more accurately in his paragraphs contrasting the God of the philosophers with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But, in any case, the gap between the unmoved mover and the living God is underscored. Now, fourth and last, Thomas's argument is invalid because one of its chief terms is used in two senses. Is it not obvious that a valid argument requires its terms to bear the same meaning in the conclusion that they started with in the premises? Unfortunately, Thomas very clearly argues in other places that no term, when applied to God, can have precisely the same meaning it has when applied to men or things. When we say that God is wise and that Solomon is wise, the term wise is not univocal. Not only the term wise, the term exist also. In the proposition God exists, the term exists has a meaning different from its use in the proposition man exists. Thomas is very emphatic on this point, but if a term is not used univocally throughout the syllogism, if a term does not bear precisely the same meaning, the syllogism is invalid. The rules of logic have been violated.